Good morning. Namaste to everybody. And thank you so much, first of all, to C2C Center for giving me this opportunity. Um, I'm sorry I'm not physically present with you all because I'm almost 36,000 kilometers away from you guys. I'm in the Northeast and I also manage a World Heritage Site. So it becomes very difficult for us to, leave station. But thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to connect to you. And also, I will be taking two sessions with you all. One is today and the other is tomorrow. I'll be happy to, be connected, have sort of connections with you all whenever you would like to be connected on. And also, I've got your brief profiles, and it is nice to know many of you are in, I mean, of course all of you are in heritage conservation, you're into conservation, and it would be really nice if we could take this friendship this for long. So okay, I'll and also kindly bear with me. What I will do is that it's this online mode is a little tough because it's like one way communication. I'm talking, you're listening, and so I would love to hear from you all. I would love to hear from you all, and we would, and pardon me if I do call out your name to say something. We have a plan during this presentation itself. So okay, so if the slides are visible, then I will start. So today the topic which is given to me is understanding nature culture linkage. Now, this is, I think, I would say this is the fundamental of how we look at heritage conservation, both natural and cultural aspect. And over the years, we have become even more and more sort of, assured that this is what sustains heritage conservation in the long run. When we talk about nature and we talk about, you know, uh, cultural aspect, which can help in conserving. So basically, I will be talking about a few aspects of where nature and culture come through. I will be giving a case study from my own World Heritage Site. And let us discuss that how do we bring about what we know is intangible. We know that we all, have some sort of, let's say, we have all our traditions but wherever we are in the globe, we do have cultural traditions which protect nature. But the key question is how do we bring it into mainstream? How do we bring it into our management of the site? How do we bring it to the, in terms of our academic discourse? uh, so this is again perhaps from a point of repetition, but I still thought that I would like to, give this detail. And so it's very interesting. How did heritage come into being? If people would ask you, okay, what is the genesis of the 1972 World Heritage? Why it suddenly came about in 1972 that we should have protection of World Heritage? So, well, of course, there isn't a straight answer, but they do say that it was being thought of for quite some time. And one of the first organizations which thought about this is IUCN, of course, which in its, in 1948 itself, they had thought that, okay, let us, try to protect our nature in a global manner, not, in countries. And if you realize, 40s, 1940s is the time when the world had just come out of world wars, so it was a time where people could think of a pause and, do that. But another thing which triggered the World Heritage Convention is the Aswan Dam and the likely sort of submergence of the Abu Simbel temples. So I am aware that there is Mr. David. He is here from Egypt. Mr. David, would you like to tell us about the Abu Simbel temple? Have you heard of that story that the Aswan Dam was being built and what was happening to that temple? I'm sure you weren't born then, but if you have heard of it.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
I would like the our temple and the any construction that's happened and survivors from this Nile. Okay.
You can speak, she can be there. You can speak, she can hear it. I'm able to hear. It's fine, and I will request either Madhumita or Anuranjan to also sort of sum up if possible, in case whatever is. Yeah, I could hear you. Yes.
Yes.
Ma'am, I think he mentioned that yes, in Egypt they have heard of the temple and how it was saved from the Nile because this was the
Okay.
Nile which was being dammed in Aswan.
Right.
And yes,
Right.
I'm sure in Egypt it's a well-known story because it's a great success story of
Correct.
conservation.
Correct. Right. No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. David. And sorry, I would love to hear from you all. I'll request the C2C organizers if they can just speak from wherever they are, if a mic could be given. So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, and Mr. David was right. I think what I was trying to convey was conveyed. So basically, the river Nile was given was there was a plan to build one of the highest, the largest dams in the world, the Aswan Dam, and then they realized that if the dam will be built, then this temple, this Abu Simbel and the Philae, which are basically sort of the monuments from the Egyptian era, they will get submerged under the water. So that was a problem because they realized that if that happens, then the generations to come will forget about that there were such temples which were there from thousands of years ago. And it's so fascinating. I mean, imagine 60 years ago, and then they said, okay, let us try to save these temples and, shift them because the dam was also required. So, brick by brick and piece by piece, these temples, which are probably very huge, I have never been, but they look very massive. So, imagine they were shifted and put back. And that's how they say that the concept of preservation of heritage came up. So these were some of the main aspects of how the genesis of World Heritage came in. And of course, we know that the World Heritage Convention, it's a very, very unique convention. I get this sort of a question from people that, oh, you are a national park manager, you are into biology, you're into sciences. Why are you talking about heritage and why are you talking about culture? So, for me, as a site manager of over 25 years, I think this is one of the most important instrument which gives me the power. It gives me the power to connect to people. So unless the people own up on the what they protect, it will become very difficult to protect it for a long time. One could still have that, okay, this is a national park, we have the government, we have the department to protect it. But if the local communities don't feel or sort of connected, then there can be a time when they might want to just go and destroy everything, and we know of such cases where that has happened. So that's why I think the World Heritage Convention is a very, very important legal instrument which can protect both the culture and the nature. No other convention gives you that opportunity. Now, what are the guiding principles? If we think of this, why did 50 countries come together and say that we would want to protect the Abu symbol in Egypt? Because it comes out of this whole concept of common heritage of mankind or humankind. And it is something where we want to say that, okay, this is not something for me. It should be enjoyed by my children, my children's children, and their children. So it is the common heritage of humankind that we want to protect. And so there is this classic movie. I will request C2C team if they can show this during their break or in the evenings. But it's a beautiful line, and which is from the Monuments Men. Now, this movie is a full, it's a Hollywood movie. It's got all the sort of, the popular cinema character. And that's where they show that there are a group of academics, many people like you all, and they are very worried that the famous the monuments, everything which is housed in France or Europe is going to get destroyed during the World War. And so what they do is they think that, okay, we have to preserve them, and they disguise as army people, as military people, and they go into the war zone, and they try to smuggle out, or they try to hide, or protect those big, those paintings and other things, because there's a very beautiful line that you can wipe out an entire generation, you can burn their homes to the ground, and somehow they will still find their way back. But if you destroy their history, you destroy their achievements, and it is as if they never existed. So it is very important that one has to preserve the history. And some of the best ways to do that is through the cultural aspect of nature conservation. And that's how we have the birth of international laws. For example, World Heritage Convention, the law of the high seas, Antarctica, outer space. So Antarctica, nobody can just go and say, oh, this is my country, because it's for everyone, and so on. And of course, this is for our when we work with environment, a lot many of you would be for example, the conference, you have to so, uh, yeah, we try to get it means one could, be able to.
Ma'am, well, there's even listed in the network, we are not able to hear it clearly. Ma'am, can you hear us?
Sorry, could you? I think I lost my network, right? Could you?
Yes,
Okay.
you will have to laugh if you can just start.
Okay.
Either
Fine. Is it visible now? I'm sorry for this. The network is a bit of a challenge. Is it now okay? Can you see the slide?
just go slide if you can go to.
We are on the slide, which is that benchmarks for natural heritage. Is it visible?
Little bit we near the go slide. The network was lost.
Okay. Your voice is a little unclear, but
And
I
when you're sharing, you need to go to the full screen mode. And that's now we are seeing the other window where
correct.
smaller pictures of the
Yes.
slides are there. So you need
Yes.
to. Okay, now you
Is
can
it
see guiding principles. You can see.
okay? Okay. So if there is anywhere, then I'll request Anuranjan to communicate. I can hear your voice clearly. So
Yes, ma'am. I'm sitting on a separate system, so
fine.
I will, yeah.
Okay. Right. So I was on this slide and I was trying to convey that what are the guiding principles of all environmental management that we do, whether it is India or any other country. These are some of the key principles that guide our management of heritage sites of environment. So, of course, the precautionary principle, and then the principle of intergenerational equity, which is also part of the Convention for biological diversity. And of course, for example, things like polluter pays principle, access and benefit sharing, and so on. And this is again a slide which I think all of you would be seeing it one of the other. You would see it in other presentations also, but this is a classic picture of how World Heritage aims to achieve the pinnacle of conservation. So, for example, all of us come from different countries. We have different designations. Somebody will call it a park. Somebody will call it a wildlife protected area. Somebody will say conservation area. So we'll have our subnational sites. Then there will be regional sites like transboundary protected areas. There will be networks like the ASEAN network or the SAVEN network. And then, of course, we have biosphere reserves, geoparks, and then the World Heritage. So it is important that we look at natural heritage. We look at all this for in terms of how they strive towards excellence. They strive towards getting us the best in terms of protection, management, and so on. And of course, 1 in 5 sites of the UNESCO World Heritage is a natural site, and most often they are protected areas, like in the country, and then of course they are globally recognized. Again, this is a very, very important slide, and something which I think over the period of your 2 weeks training, you must remember. This is because this is the basic, which is the OUV, or the outstanding universal value. So for a site to be of heritage value, it is structured in terms of its OUV, and that is outstanding universal value. And within this outstanding universal value, there are these 3 pillars. So A, it could be the criteria 1 to 10, which you will come to know, or you probably know, aware of in terms of the World Heritage criteria. Whether it's a cultural monument, is it a area with species, is it of geological importance? Then, of course, there is integrity and authenticity. So, which means that, how the area is as aligned, whether what we claim in terms of the evidence, is it authentic, it is backed by publications. And of course, there is this entire aspect of protection and management. So, whether the site has a protection and management. But in all this, how is it now linked to culture and nature? So if you see the term outstanding universal value, so value systems become extremely important, and this is what is the fabric of heritage across the world. So earlier it was that, okay, you just designate a site, and that's it. Taj Mahal, perhaps they are taking you to some of these, many of these. So we just designate them and we think, okay, this is good, it's a World Heritage. But now, over and over time, now it has become, there is a shift. It has said that no, we are not just protecting heritage, it is the heritage which will give a well-being to the society and to the people. So this values approach has become extremely important when we talk about heritage. And that value systems comes from culture, it comes from how the communities perceive heritage, and so on. Yeah. So and we do a good exercise of it. Maybe later during the end of your training, we could do this exercise of assigning values and attributes to your site. But having said that, how do you get about it? Why is the site important, and to whom? And it is not just for you like an expert or a practitioner, but how is the site important for a common person or a village person who is next to that site? And values are very, very intrinsic and attributed by people. So the people decide what is the value, and it can be, all the values can be relevant. Some of them can be conflicting also, in especially when you look at if I can, like the aspect of sacrifice or animal sacrifice, for example, in my country. Now that value system is no longer applicable, it doesn't make sense. So those things can be, of course, complementary. And some values only become evident as and when we engage in the heritage process. So that is very, very important for it. So how do we do that? We generally, what we do is we try to, go down to the basics of the landscape of the area. Then we say, okay, is this place evoking identity? Is it motivation? And what are the attributes? Means, what are the tangible ways to measure it, in terms of the values of that place? So for example, if it's let's say a sacred grove, a sacred grove which is close to a Buddhist monastery, and it's been preserved for 1000 years. Now, of course, we know that it has been preserved because it's close to a monastery, it has belief and spiritual. But what are the key benefits or key attributes that will define? So maybe there are some very rare plants, maybe there are some very rare animals which are found in that sacred grove and nowhere else. So those become the attributes of that heritage site. And so the values and attributes become very, very important because they serve as the baseline of every time we look at heritage. So, for example, if you're looking at management planning, so the first thing one should know that, okay, what are the things which are available in my site? If you're looking at heritage impact assessment, so is this something which is worth, for creating any development? Management effectiveness, visitor management, nature interpretation. So it can go on, and they have a very important role. And if you see the global examples, and I was going through your list of participants, it's so interesting. Wherever we have high biodiversity, we also have a very high in terms of indigenous communities. It's so interesting. If you go to the Amazon or if you go to the South Asian tropical areas, so we have more numbers of plants and animals, and we also have more numbers of indigenous communities. So there is a clear overlap between nature and culture in these landscapes. And if we see in some of our examples in within our country, for example, and this is again a very classic example of nature culture is in Sundarbans, which is a World Heritage Site in India and Bangladesh. It's a transboundary heritage site, which is known for its mangroves, the ecosystem. And it is so interesting that there we have a deity, who's known as Bone Bibi. She is sort of a, mythical or spiritual deity. And she is worshipped by both all religions, irrespective of whether you're a Hindu, Muslim, or anything, by the communities. And why do they do that? Because that forest area, that landscape has tigers, and these tigers can be very ferocious. They can attack people. So every time the local communities go inside the forest, they worship to Bone Baby, and they say that, okay, please protect us. So that's the cultural aspect, the spiritual aspect of heritage, which is keeping Sundarbans the way it is. I mean, if the communities would not have had Bone Baby, maybe they would just go in and destroy the entire forest, because they feel that, okay, this is something which the resources have to be had. Similarly, for example, the mountains, all the mountain ranges that we see, I mean, especially when you are at C2C and WII, if you stand on a clear day, you will see the Himalayas. Now, Himalayas are not just mountains, they are sacred. They are something which people believe in. And that's why people have not gone and plundered these mountains for various reasons, whether it is mining or industry or and so on. So that belief of mountains and sacred and spiritual is very important, and that is what manifests in our culture, in our paintings, in our songs, in our poetry. Like this very beautiful painting of the Great Himalayan National Park by a Russian, interestingly, painter who settled in India, is one of the most famous paintings of that land. So I'll stop here because I would love to hear from you all. And when I was Googling about, what are the sort of examples of nature culture relationships in your countries, and I could be absolutely wrong, but this is what the internet gave me. It gave me some examples of how culture and nature is protected in your own countries. So I would love to hear from them, because for me it is like, okay, I'm reading about it, but it would be wonderful to hear from you all. So, if I may call upon Mr. Bhim Bahadur Kuwar of Nepal. So, I was reading about that the Sherpa communities, they have a system called the Singi Nawa, which is basically where they have rules of which trees to protect and which trees to cut and so on. Are you aware of that, or would you like to share any other with us?
You can speak from there.
Yeah, you could just sit and speak. I think I would hear,
You can
otherwise.
speak from there. The mic will catch it. It's fine. You
Yeah.
can speak from there.
Hello, ma'am. Yeah, I'm quite aware of this, my community forest. Because in Nepal, also in the mountain, I think in many places in Nepal, we have community-based forest. So these communities are really aware about preserving the forest and also regulating tree sorting, and so we are more engaged in community based. So for Sherpa community also, I'm not much sure, but I think that as we have many community-based forests working in many parts of the Nepal, so probably this could be also there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhim Bahadur Kuwar. I think, yes, you're right. I think when we talk about, community-based conservation, I think Nepal stands out as one of the leaders. We have the Annapurna conservation area and so on. So yes, you're right. So you're that every civilization, every country has that, and probably Sherpas do follow that. I would like to request Mr. Chabidu Shashiranga from Nepal, sorry, Sri Lanka. I was reading about these sacred groves in Buddhist monasteries, and they have a term called Roto Gala and Kalu Gala. So, are you aware, or would you talk about these sacred groves in the Buddhist monasteries?
Good morning, ma'am. Yes. Those documents is there in Sri Lanka. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
I think the documents is conflict in Sri Lanka. Is there in Sri Lanka. It's a beautiful program in Sri Lanka. So, okay.
Okay, thank you. Anuranjan, can you please repeat? Because I couldn't catch him properly.
Ma'am, unfortunately, even I couldn't hear him very
Okay.
clearly. Yeah, maybe I don't know if it's help coming closer to the TV might actually help, because this TV is supposed to follow your sound, but maybe it's not helping.
Okay, no problem. I think let us not disturb the class too much. It's fine, I guess we could just do it from wherever they are sitting. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
it.
sorry, ma'am. This is the first time we are trying it, so you are
Yes, exactly.
making a debut on this system, and
Yeah,
we assure you by tomorrow or at least the next session we will have this figured out. We are still trying to,
right,
because yesterday evening we tested and it worked perfectly fine. Even from the last row we could hear,
correct,
but today the
correct.
fans are running or something else is happening
Yes,
acoustically.
yes, yeah.
Trying to figure it.
No problem. And I think I just wanted to get the class a little more active. So if that's okay, and if we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
time. So
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you so much. Yeah. So thank you so much, Mr. Shashiranga. I think it would be nice if you could share by the end of your, 2 weeks, something more on this, maybe slides. I will request from Russia, we have Miss Taisia Marchenkova. So, Taisia, I was reading about Zapovedniks. Have you heard of them? And they are basically protected land by the indigenous communities. Are you aware?
Hello, man, do you hear me? You have to speak like this. Okay, do you hear me if I speak like this?
Yes, please.
Yes, we can
Nice
hear
to meet
you.
you. Great. Yes, sure. We call Zapovedniki is kind of reserve, which is more close to like core area of reserves in India. And it's usually strictly prohibited areas, but in some places we have indigenous community that's involved in conservation and protection of this land. And in the northern areas, we also have some reserves that integrated with the old cultural heritage sites when there's old worship temples within the protected areas as well that that's served by indigenous communities.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Taisia, for sharing that. So, I mean, I'll keep this for later, maybe, and maybe you could share with the C2C later. So, there are indigenous communities who have been protecting, and they are like core areas, as you said, of protected areas. But why are they not recognized? Why are they not part of the government national parks or sanctuaries, and why they are not heritage? So, or is there a requirement at all to make them heritage? So that could be, later, but it's nice to know that you know of them, and people, of the general people, I'm sure, know of that. So thank you so much. We'll go back to our friend from Egypt, Mr. Mahmoud. Mr. Mahmoud, I'm sure you know Egypt from what we know in our movies. We know about the Bedouin, the nomadic tribes, and their knowledge of water resources. Can you tell us that are these water conservation measures still in practice? Are they being done? Mr. Mahmood?
There is not the water needed from my river and my country included the source of the water was about okay. This water creates the land, and in Egypt we make green trade in the Nile River.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I could catch a bit of it, but not entirely, but thank you. Looks like it's something which was being done. And then I will, I'll move to Zimbabwe, and we have Miss Pamela. So, Ms. Pamela, would you know about these communities, the Shona and Shangwe communities? And I believe that certain forests, certain animals are protected. So I'm assuming that they are not hunted and so on. Would you be aware of some of these, Ms. Pamela?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, in Zimbabwe, we have animals which are protected because of ancestral beliefs. Because we've got animals like the pangolins. It's a taboo in Zimbabwe to move around carrying a pangolin animal because we believe that it carries some ancestral connection with it. Then we also have got some pools which are protected also by these spiritual beliefs, whereby you have to sort a spiritual ancestral authority enter such a pool. Then also agricultural practices are prohibited from such pools because they believe that there are marine spirits in those pools. So the moment you enter to in such an area, then you might be affected or disappear. So that's how we are protecting our pools, some of the pools and the Shona and the Shangwe culture. There are also some trees which are prohibited to be cut down in Zimbabwe because of the ancestral connection. Because they believe that there are some trees which were very important to the ancestors of Zimbabwe. So those trees, they are not supposed to be cut down. So that is how we are protecting our forests. And also there are some forests which you don't just enter by just moving around. You have to seek ancestral authority. You have to perform some spiritual rites so that you enter in that forest. So that is how it is happening in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful, Miss Pamela. That was very beautifully, conveyed. And you were so confident. It seems that you know a lot about it and about this. Like you mentioned about the pangolins, it's so amazing to know that pangolins are protected because in India, we don't have, or either we are not aware, but we have forgotten that pangolins also have some cultural and that's why pangolins are very, very highly traded. And there's a lot of international and national trade on the pangolins. And like you said about the trees and about that, so that's again, thank you so much for sharing that. I would like to request from Tajikistan, Ms. Shahnoza. I was reading and wow, there are these two places, Sari Khosor and Dashtijum, if I communities, which preserve over 20 local varieties of mulberry. Have you heard of them? There. Yeah. Miss Shanoza.
I think instead of what? I found the right before I become side. Hello, ma'am. Nice
Yes.
to meet you. I think in the south of Pakistan, actually I'm not good biologist, but as I know, in the southern part of Tajikistan, we have a lot of Zafavetnik places where they protect these things. But unfortunately, I don't have more information about that because I'm historical. But maybe I will find a lot of information about this, and next time I will share with you.
Right, right. Yes, no, thank you so much. As I said, these are things which are available on the net. Maybe it's there and, so, but I just thought, but thank you if you could. I mean, hopefully it is there. It's probably available and it's well preserved. So thank you for sharing that. And if I may call upon Mr. Pablo from Mexico. Very interesting. I was reading about these holas, which is basically the rainwater traps, which are used by the, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, the Mixtec farmers. Would you like to speak about that, Mr. Pablo?
Yes, of course. Hello, Sonali. Thank you so much for your presentation. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm familiar with the system you mentioned, which is actually called OYAS. It's written with an H. It sometimes has an H sound in Spanish. But yes, this system is widely used in all central Mexico, not only by the Mixtecs, but also the Nahuatls, the Mazawa, and the Otoní people. Because in central Mexico, we have a very seasonal rainy season. So we have a very dry half year and a very wet one. So these farmers have an empirical understanding of the watershed, functional zones, and the climate regimes. So they find in the transition zone of the watershed these places where water is coming during rainy season and building these oils, which are practically pools of water that they protect. So they collect water in rainy season and save it for the drier months, so they can keep their agricultural activities. So yes, it's a widely used system in Mexico. Thank you.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing such wonderfully and so summing up beautifully a system which is there. You're very right. Actually, water, land, forest, across cultures and civilizations, it's preserved when it is scarce. And every country, every community has ways of doing it. So that's the very strong cultural linkage that we have in nature preservation. If I may call upon Mr. Nicholas from Tobago. Nicholas, I was reading about these coral reef protection. Normally we think that we should protect forest, mountains, land, but here there was a sort of text about that even marine areas and coral reefs are being protected by certain beliefs and taboos. So, Mr. Nicholas, and there are two, I believe, Mr. Nicholas and Mr. Omar Dat. Would you like to, any one of you, share?
Hi, good morning, ma'am. First of all, excellent presentation, excellent lecture. Well received. For us in Tobago is a very small island. By profession, I would like to look at this from an economic perspective. The people of Tobago, they generate revenue and income through these protected sites, through these groves and coral reef. So it's a main form of tourist attraction, and you find people from all over the world visiting just to see these corals. So it's more important for them to protect this for their sustainability and their livelihoods. So when you visit these things, we have things like the glass bottom glass boat bottom that you can actually view the corals while you go through the sea. It's an excellent experience for all those who invite anybody who would like to visit and have a share that experience. But some of the things that are taboo and some of the things that they protect, we are not allowed to take any part of the reef out of the country, or out of the coral reefs, out of the reefs themselves. So it's always excellent, but it's unfortunately not listed as one of our national heritage sites, yes, as opposed to some of the older ones, like for instance, the Tobago Main Rainforest, which is the oldest protected rainforest in the Western Hemisphere, a very important note to make point of, and it showcases a lot of the unique flora and fauna of that side of the world. So definitely, as I say, we look at it from an economic perspective, and we see that the livelihoods of these people rely heavily on these coral reefs and sacred groves. Thank you, Dr. Marif.
Right. Yes.
Hi, this is Umar. I think Nicholas described it well, but it's also to say that C2C also organized a session for us to do presentations to all participants here. So they will see visuals of these reefs that you are mentioning. But just find examples. While we look at a lot of natural sites and descriptions, it's very important to give a personal look at the country level and to understand the management. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation that although we are a small island developing state and we may not have official World Heritage sites, etc., some have been tentative, but we're also curious to explore a bit deeper, not only the ecological side, but the economic and the livelihoods attached to it and mobilizing community money.
Right. Thank you so much. So wonderfully, presented by both of you, Mr. Nicholas and Mr. Romadat. I think what you were trying to convey, and if I've understood correctly, there were always these systems and, people would protect the coral reefs. And I think it was the economic incentive which made it even stronger. So now there are glass bottom boats and, one cannot take any piece of coral reef outside the country because the communities have realized that unless it is protected, the economy will not be, it will be sustained. So yeah, so that's what is the beauty, I think, of cultural aspects of aspects which people are aware, and we don't need just science. I mean, if you tell the community there are 50 species of coral reefs, maybe it can strike a chord, maybe it is not. But if there is a sort of a cultural aspect to it, then the communities will serve. Thank you. I will move to Lesotho, and we have Mr. Morapelli. And Mr. Morapelli, are you aware of the Basotho communities, which have sacred mountains, rivers, and forests? And are they still preserving, or is that tradition lost?
Okay, thank you. And good morning. I'm aware of such practices. It is said that these people have spiritual connections with, they have the spiritual connections with the wetlands, in the sense that they can assign a wetland to a certain person, Morapelli's wetland. And if it's Morapelli's wetland, it is assigned to that person. Yes, there's spiritual connection with that wetland. He goes there to communicate with ancestors, maybe seek for guidance. It is not only the wetlands, and there's the mountains too, and the cave sites. They go to the caves and pray in the caves. And those caves are well preserved because no one just goes there and does whatever they want. They respect such places. That is what happens. I remember one time there was a construction that was to happen, and it was going to pass through a certain dam. And the community around that dam had to stop that road from passing through That's them. It's not a big dam as such, but they stopped the road from passing there, and there was a ritual that had to be done for the construction could be taken on the other side of the dam. So that is how they protect the environment through such beliefs, such indigenous knowledge systems. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. That was so wonderfully, explained by you. And I think you shared that case study example as well. So which is really fascinating. Very interesting. Somebody wants to say something or okay. Okay. I would love to hear from South Sudan then. Mr. Anthony, I was reading about that again, perhaps similarly like any other country where water is scarce. So the grazing lands have some rules and the seasons where it can be grazed and not grazed. So is that something which is still practiced?
Good morning, ma'am. I hope you are getting me well. So, we as a South Sudanese communities, the old tribes, they known by the majority of them are cattle keepers or cattle headers. So we do manage, or they do manage the wetlands and grazing lands because of their cattle. So they are depending on the cattle. A few of the communities, they are farmers, those who does not have cattle. So the majority of South Sudanese, they are cattle keepers. They are depending on it in everything, in marriage, in work, in even solving the problems. If there is any disputes between tribes, they are depending on the cattle. That's why they need a place whereby their cattle can graze, can get water, can get what. In addition to this, some tribes, they depend on the fishing, they are fishermen. So now, the only activity when South Sudanese depend on it is a grazing or a cattle keeping activity. So that these things become like a sacred things to them, by the way. So I can stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think, yes, as you said, that the cattle seems to be the main wealth for everything, be it marriage or, livelihood. And that's why it's so important that the areas where the pastures or these grazing lands are, they have their own, societal rules. So thank you so much for sharing that. I would request Miss Amina from Tunisia. I was reading about these rainwater harvesting systems called Jessors. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Are they still around? I believe they're very old systems. Miss Amina?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Miss. Jessors are traditional Tunisian water harvesting system that involves building small dams across wadis and guris in arid highland area. Climate of Tunisia is sometimes arid, especially in the south. They create area to capture rainwater and flood water along with sediments. It is in many regions like Kebes, Medellin, Tatooine, especially in the south of Tunisia. But another thing, I would like to bring your attention to another example. The island of Jerba, which is just listed in the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2023. There is water scarcity management in Jerba, and we use traditional way of practice with arid climate. So, among other things like vernacular architecture, artifacts, and intangible heritage, and mosque architecture, Jerba was listed in UNESCO World Heritage list because of genius human adaptation with the limited water resources. By building genius system like Mejen and Fastia, which is sea terms, promoting sustainable use of water. Thank you very much, and I'm really happy to talk with you in this session and to discuss with the participants about Jerba, especially in my presentation tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amina. That was so wonderfully placed, and you're so well aware. Actually, you've made my task easier. That is exactly what this whole course is about, and everything, where we recognize, we acknowledge what the traditional systems are and keep them for inscription, whether it is World Heritage Convention or the Intangible Convention and so on. So, and it's so nice to hear that Tunisia has already done that in 23, and I would love to read more about this, what you mentioned. So thank you so much. I would like to request Miss Agatha from Uganda. Very fascinating, because I also handle agroforestry. So there was this concept on Busuma, which is basically mixed cropping and agroforestry system. Are you aware of it, Ms. Agatha?
Yes, please. Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation. Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation. Yes, I come from Uganda, which is the part of Africa. And yes, it's not only in Busoma that we have mixed cropping. Most of the parts in Uganda, we do mixed cropping. And this cropping is mostly done in food crops. We do plant our own food. A biggest percentage of our food is through our own farming. And yes, agroforestry system is well protected in our country. There are gazetted areas, not only in Busoma, but even other places. They are gazetted, and these earn us a lot of money through tourism. So you cannot just access them freely or even damage them freely. It's a system that you have to go through for you to access them. So we highly protect our forests. And yes, the mixed cropping brings us a lot of money, and we don't have to also import food from other countries. Most of the food is done in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was, I think, what the last line, what you mentioned was so amazing, that because of your traditional systems, you do not need to import from other countries. You are self-sufficient, and it is basically sustainable agriculture. which is what people know. You do not have to teach them. And this is something which is there. So wonderful. Thank you so much to this wonderful class. I think the participants of Tuvalu haven't joined yet, so we'll leave that, and but this was so amazing, and I think you all have a treasure of knowledge yourselves, that it would be lovely to hear more of this, from you all. So yeah, so I think I also don't have much to say, because beyond what we were discussing, the concept, but this whole question, like for most of us, including all of you, whether you're in academics or you're in the government, or if you're in, other this thing, the main aspect is how, okay, we know there is this culture, we know that it is available, but how do I use it in my own work? How do we do it in our mainstream, in our modern? Are we is somebody, Anaranjan, somebody's saying something?
I think may have been a slight confusion because, ma'am, the next speaker I messaged you actually. The next speaker is here,
Okay.
and I was wondering if we can maybe continue this in a class tomorrow, because we have a
Yes.
class tomorrow, right, ma'am? So
Yes.
it would be lovely. It was great to hear from all of you, and ma'am here is one of the pioneers of natural heritage. She has, even in this case, you realize she saved the World Heritage Site from danger back to its normal, and she's been part of this center for such a long time. So, ma'am has so much to share in terms of the center's work. But, ma'am, would it be okay if we continue this conversation tomorrow? Just because Mr. Lakshmana only speaking on elephants, it's the fascinating heritage of most of them.
Absolutely,
So, ma'am,
absolutely. We'll do it
we
tomorrow.
would request continue this conversation tomorrow, and thank you for stressing on nature culture linkages. I tried to bring it up slightly in my introduction, but as you said that without nature culture linkages, you cannot manage heritage at all. So we really appreciate your input, ma'am. And tomorrow again, we look forward at the same time in the same slot to continue discussion, ma'am. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I think I may have miscommunicated the time. It was at an extent, but since the next person is here, we will continue the communication.
No problem at all, and see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Bye.